Welcome back to Presentation 2. This one we are going to investigate the various levels of measurements and why it's important. Before we continue, a couple of suggestions. First, we're going to be learning a lot of new terms during this class. I'd strongly recommend that you keep a journal of terms. I think this will be helpful not only for class, but as you go forward past this class so that you have something to refer back to as you're reading literature, learning about new assessments. It's also going to be a great resource for you in a variety of settings. You'll also be able to use this resource during our Check for Understandings, our quizzes, and the exam. This is going to be just a good reference for you throughout. Our first term we're going to talk about is variable. A variable is anything that can take on more than one value. For example, WKC proficiency. It can take on more than one value. It can be a 1, 2, 3. It can be an A for advanced, P for proficient. Test scores. You can have all sorts of values on a test score. You can have 100%, you can have 82, 95%. On your SAT, you can have a value of a 1 to 760 on a math assessment or the reading language portion. On ACT, you could have a 1 to 36. You can have a readiness level. On MAP, you can have a RIT score. Age, gender, length of time. These are all variables. Our second term we're going to talk about is measurement. When I have a variable, if I assign it a label that defines the parameters of the variable, that's measurement. So, for example, I could have a variable of length, and I could define the parameters as inches or meters or feet. I could have a variable that is a test, and I could assign a label to it that defines the parameters as a percent, or a scale score, or a standard age score, or a universal score. Or if I'm talking about the size of something, the variable is size, and I'm defining that variable as small, medium, large, extra large, or even humongous. Now we're going to talk about level of measurement. The first one is nominal. A nominal measurement is also sometimes called categorical or a discrete level, such that you have to be in one group at a time. For example, if you are part of a medical test, then you are either in the drug group or the placebo group. You can't be in both. Another example would be at one of our middle schools. They have a house system, and you can only be in one or the other house. You can't be in more than one house. So you're either in the gold house, white house, blue house, or purple house. That's what we would call a nominal level of measurement. The second level of measurement is called ordinal. In this instance, the labels of the variable are ordered along a continuum from not good to really good. There are still discrete groups or categories, but in this case they have a rank order. Something is better than another group. For example, in a reading situation, a child could be in the Redbird group, and we know that the Redbirds are better readers than the child in the Blackbird group. We just don't know how much. but we know that there is a specific degree of betterness when something has an ordinal level of measurement. The final level of measurement that we're going to talk about is interval. In this case, we assign the value of the variable along a continuum of equal intervals. In this case, we can make discrete assumptions based on a person's position along the continuum, not only that they are better than another person on the continuum, but we can say exactly how much better. A simple example would be height. We know that if two people are measured, the difference between them can be measured in exact equal intervals of centimeters, inches. So if one person is 5 foot and the other person is 5'3", we know the second person is exactly 3 inches taller than the first person. Another example would be on a MAP score. Every student, when they take the MAP test, gets a RIT value, and we know then that we can compare students based on this interval measure, that the student that is marked with the green hexagon does not have as much skill and knowledge at a RIT score of 161 than the student that's marked by the star has at a RIT level of 189. That child has a specific level of knowledge greater than the other student. In your Salkin book, turn to page 32 and review table 2.1. This is going to give you some examples of level of measurements. Now let's look at some that we might know about in our own educational setting. For example, WKCE scale score. This is an interval measurement. We know exactly along a continuum what score is better than another score. Same with the RIT score from MAP. The standard age score, which is often used on a cognitive ability test and sometimes intelligence testing, again is a discrete score, equal intervals along a continuum. So a student that has a standard age score of 100, or average, has less, say, cognitive ability than a student that has a standard age score of 135. Classroom, on the other hand, the student is either in one classroom or the other. So in this case, that would be a nominal variable. Grade level, same thing. You're either in 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, or 9th grade. You can't be in 2 grades at once. So that also is nominal. Intervention group could be either nominal or ordinal. We may know that a Tier 3 intervention group is for a group of kids that need substantially more intervention than those in a Tier 2, but we don't know how much. We just know that there's a rank order from Tier 2 to Tier 3. An intervention group could also be nominal. They're either in intervention group A, B, or C, but we don't know what the difference is. We just know that a student is in one or another of those groups. Same with math group. Depends about the group. Do we have a notion of betterness? If we do, then that level of measurement would be ordinal. If we don't, then it's nominal. Ethnicity. Now this one's a little bit difficult because I can choose my own ethnicity, but generally, if I am given 5 choices, I have to opt in to one of those 5 choices. I have to commit to either being Asian, African American, Hispanic, Pacific Islander, or White Caucasian. I can only be in one group. I must make a choice. Report card grades. Generally, we know that those are either ordinal or interval. Depends on how much information we have. If I am an A, B, C, D, or F, if I don't have a scale, I don't know how much better my A is than a B, but I know there's a degree of betterness. Now, if I know that an A is 93% to 100 and a B is 86% to 92%, then I have a greater knowledge of the degree of difference between myself and someone else. A rubric score is another example. If I have a discrete rubric that defines a level 1, 2, 3, and 4, I could call that an interval group. But generally, rubrics are a little bit more vague, so the degree of betterness is more in the ordinal category, because if I have a 4, how much better am I than the person that has a 3? Those ranges are quite large, and they're not divided equally in between necessarily. Extracurricular activity. I'm either in it or I'm not. Think about some others and try to determine whether they are nominal, ordinal, or interval. The bottom line when we're talking about measurement is that we want to select a measurement that provides the most information that is possible in a situation. So we need to know what type of measurement our assessment will give us so that we can better choose an assessment so that we get the result or the measurement that provides us the most information that is possible. So let's review. After your reading and after viewing this presentation, you should be able to describe various types of tests and measurements that are available for our use. You should also be able to define what a variable is and what measurement that variable has, and be able to give examples. You should also be able to define the 3 levels of measurement with examples, and you should also be able to critique your knowledge with tests and measurements by identifying the type of test and their level of measurement.